Welcome to the deep dive. Ever wonder how companies, how they really know the outside services they use are up to snuff?
You mean like payroll services or cloud providers?
Exactly. Like if your company, the user entity, hires another firm, a service organization, for something important, how do you trust them?
That's a huge question. And often the answer involves something called a SOC report, System and Organizational Controls.
SOC report. Oh.
Yeah, basically an independent CPA, a service auditor, goes in and examines the service organization's controls.
Ah, like an audit report, but for these outsourced services.
Precisely. It gives the user entity, and maybe their partners too, a way to understand the setup and, the risks.
Okay, so if I'm using a service, I might ask for one of these. Are there different kinds?
Oh yeah, three main ones you'll hear about: SOC1, SOC2, and SOC3.
All right, let's break those down. SOC1.
SOC1 is quite specific. It focuses on internal controls at the service organization that could impact a user entity's financial reporting.
So very finance focused, maybe for the user's own auditors.
Exactly. It's restricted use really meant for them.
Okay, what about SOC2?
SOC2 is broader. It uses what are called the trust services criteria. It's also for specified parties, people who need a deeper understanding of the controls.
Trust services criteria sounds important. What does that cover?
It covers 5 key areas. Think. Security is the data safe. Availability is the system running. Processing integrity is data handled correctly. Confidentiality is sensitive info protected. And privacy, how's personal data managed.
Security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, privacy.
About it.
So SOC2 dives deep into those.
Right, for people who really need the details on those operational controls.
And SOC3, how's that different?
SOC3 uses those same trust services criteria, but it's like a summary report. It's meant for general use.
General use, so less detail.
Yeah, it confirms controls are generally effective, but doesn't give you the nitty-gritty descriptions of the controls or the auditor's testing details like a SOC2 does. Think of it more like a public-facing seal of approval.
Interesting. Are there other types, too? You hear about cybersecurity a lot.
Good point. Yes, there are newer, more specialized reports emerging, like SOC for cybersecurity or even SOC for supply chain, tackling those specific risk areas more directly.
Okay, sense. Now, I've also heard Type 1 and Type 2 thrown around with SOC reports. What's that about?
Yes. Key difference. A Type 1 report looks at the design of the controls at a single point in time, like a snapshot.
Just as of this date.
Exactly. Whereas a Type 2 report looks at both the design and the operating effectiveness of those controls over a period typically like 6 months or a year.
So Type 2 tells you if they actually worked overtime.
Correct. It gives much stronger assurance. And just to note, SOC3 reports, they're always Type 2. They always cover a period.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction.
Yeah.
So let's use an example. Say Wyatt Co. uses Database Inc. for processing customer orders, which impacts Wyatt's financials. Wyatt's auditors would probably want
A SOC1 Type 2 report from Database Inc., most likely.
right, because they need to know those financial-related controls worked consistently, not just on one day.
You got it. The Type 2 gives them that historical view of effectiveness.
So what's actually in these reports? What do you see when you open one up?
Well, both types will have management's description of the service organization's system, what they actually do.
Okay.
A Type 1 report then adds management's assertion, basically them saying, yes, this description is fair, and the controls are designed properly as of this date.
And Type 2 adds?
Type 2 adds management's assertion about operating effectiveness throughout the period. Plus, crucially, the service auditor's description of their tests of the controls and the results of those tests.
Ah, so you see the actual testing and findings in a Type 2. Much more detail.
Definitely more detail and assurance.
Okay, let's quickly recap. SOC1, financial controls, restricted use, often for auditors. SOC2, broader controls based on trust services criteria, detailed report for specific users. SOC3, same criteria as SOC2, but a general summary report.
Perfect. And SOC 1 and 2 can be Type 1, design at a point in time, or Type 2, design and effectiveness over time. SOC 3 is always Type 2.
And those trust services criteria, you mentioned 5, security, availability.
Processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy.
Yep.
Sometimes people use the mnemonic CAPPS, but backwards, sort of. Security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, privacy. SAPPC, well, the 5 are key.
Right. And these criteria, they fit into a bigger picture, don't they? Like COSO.
They do. The trust services criteria align well with the COSO framework, which is widely used for Absolutely. Availability might cover disaster recovery and capacity planning. Processing integrity looks at input-output controls. Confidentiality deals with identifying and disposing of information properly. Privacy has a whole set of criteria around notice, choice, consent, how data is used.
Wow, okay. It's quite comprehensive.
It really has to be, given what's at stake.
It feels like, with everyone outsourcing so much these days, getting a handle on these SOC reports is becoming, well, almost essential, not just for auditors, but for business leaders too.
I agree. Understanding this landscape is increasingly important for managing risk. Which leads to a final thought for you, our listeners.
Yeah.
Considering this growing reliance on outside services, how might a deeper understanding of SOC reports, what they cover, what they really mean, give your organization a competitive edge? Or, even personally, how might it help you better evaluate the risks when you use online services? Something to think about.
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for breaking that down today.
My pleasure.